of the year when everyone seems to smile. The sunshine really makes it for that while. Get your shorts and flip-flops on and head down to the shore. Feel the sand between your toes like more.
Hey guys, and welcome to another lesson with me, Rex Pearson from rexpearson.com. In a bit of a different area for you than normal. We're on the sort of paradise island in the middle of the Andaman Sea called Koh Hai, which is in Thailand. So where better to have a guitar lesson than an awesome looking place like this, so you can learn something and also see the crabs and see the scenery and all the other wildlife that might wander around while I'm doing this lesson. This lesson is an intermediate sort of advanced lesson because you need to know at a minimum the 7 positions of the major scale. And what I'm going to try and do, or what I'm going to attempt to do, is try and clear up a lot of the confusion that can happen when you start learning or discovering a topic called modes. And I've developed an exercise that can sort of highlight to you through a practical way how to approach modes and what modes are, because they're the source of countless confusion and also the source of many guitar lessons that try to explain it, but I don't think there are any out there that explain it in quite the way that I'm going to try and do now. So hopefully for many of you this could clear up a lot of the confusion that happens as a result of learning modes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the principle, and then I'm going to demonstrate it for you so that you can hear how it sounds when applied to the different modes. And I'm also going to give you a description of what modes actually are, to try and help you out if you're struggling with it. So remember, you need to know the 7 positions of the major scale, which I'm going to display somewhere in the sky over here. If you don't already know it, that's your first stage. Learn all 7 positions in a key. It doesn't matter which key, it could be in the key of A, it could be in the key of C, doesn't really matter, as long as you know 7 positions. After that, we're then going to look at how to explore the modes which are drawn from each of those 7 positions. So, let's get on with the explanation. Okay, now the best way to think about modes is that you use them all the time, whether you know it or not, if you improvise in a scale, because a mode is just a sound of a scale relative to a chord. It's all based on the chord, and a lot of the confusion happens when what you'll find is you'll learn the 7 positions of the major scale, and then you'll also be told that there are 7 modes, which is true, there are 7 modes. So you learn each of the positions as a mode. Now that doesn't really mean very much because you're just playing the same scale shape. You know, the C major scale is still a C major scale. A D Dorian scale still is the same notes, it's just one, you know, starting 1 note higher on the D instead of the C. That's where the confusion comes from. What people don't usually teach you is it's from the chord in the background that defines how that scale sounds, not the scale itself making itself that mode. The D Dorian mode won't sound Dorian unless you're playing in a Dorian chord progression or over the D note. So if you play the C major scale over a D Dorian chord progression, which is another lesson in itself, by the way. I won't go into chord progressions that lend themselves to certain modes. But if you're playing the C major scale and you're playing the notes D Dorian, then you're going to have a D Dorian sound. It's as simple as that. Now, the best technique that I've found for actually discovering your modes and hearing how they sound is playing it relative to its root chord or even its root note, which is what we're going to do. I'm going to use the note E. So if you've learnt your 7 positions in the key of E, then you've done a very good job. Because what we're going to be doing is playing the 7 modes all based around the key of E. So you're going to be needing to shift the positions that you know through the different scales. You start with a major scale. So you play the E bass note on your guitar, and then you play the notes wherever you know them in E major. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate how you can take that principle and apply it to the 7 different modes. I'm not going to demonstrate all the modes, just my favourite few. So you can hear how you can use this technique to explore the sound of the modes, because each mode has a particular sound that only experience can teach you how it sounds. And this is a great exercise. You can sit here for hours playing around with modes. I'm going to demonstrate a couple of my favourite modes, and I'll announce them before I play them so you can hear the difference as I go through them. And just improvise around that bass note. Whenever the bass note stops ringing, hit it again. This is the major. If I wanted to do the Mixolydian mode, that's the Mixolydian note there, etc. And you can hear how it's different to the major, or you should do. So, I'm going to demonstrate a couple, and I hope you guys enjoy. So hopefully you could hear how I was using different modes based in E, because I was just playing the E note. And I went through a couple of different modes there. I went through a Lydian mode, a Mixolydian mode, a natural minor, and I started with the Dorian mode there. You should be able to hear how there is a difference in sound. And the more you do this, the more you can pick up the sound of a mode. So you should by now, hopefully, realise that modes are based around the notes that you are improvising over, the chords. In our case, it's just an E, which is why it's very easy to play modes, because it's just one note. Usually you're dealing with chord progressions that land on an E. Certain types of chords lend themselves to certain modes, but we won't go into that for now. You just the realization that it's the backing, not the scale itself, that makes the mode. The scale itself could be anything without a backing chord. You don't really know. The rest is discovery on how the modes actually sound. To explore them, find your favorite. Me personally, the Mixolydian mode, the Dorian and the Lydian are my favorite ones. Most people use the minor scale, the natural minor scale, which is a mode. It's called the Aoelian mode, just a fancy name. And that's the other thing that confuses people. The names of modes are very complex for no real reason other than they're based around Greek terms. So don't let the names throw you off. So guys, that's the exercise. A bass note and then exploring the modes, all 7 of them if you can, in that key, in the same key, in the key of E. Okay, just a final note if you're having trouble with this. The main thing that I'll predict most people have trouble with is playing the right modes, you know, playing major in E and then switching to Phrygian in E. The 7 modes are Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aoelian and Locrian. They're based around the 7 positions of the major scale. So Ionian is the major scale, Dorian is starting from the 2nd note of the major scale, Phrygian 3rd note, Lydian 4th note and so on. So if you're having trouble moving these into the key of E each time, just think, over the E note, you're playing an E major scale. If you wanted to do a Dorian, then you play the E major scale a whole step down, so that basically the second note is your E rather than the first note. So rather than playing, you're going to play Dorian. So bear that in mind. Just think about it as each mode is the major scale, just at a different starting note, all based around E. If you know your 7 positions of the major scale, it takes a bit of thinking to work out which way around. If in doubt, then I'll put the modes up for you here so that you can explore them at your own pace. So you'll have E major, E Dorian, E Phrygian, E Lydian, E Mixolydian. All 7 modes will be displayed somewhere in the beautiful sky next to me. So I hope you enjoyed your lessons in Paradise. I certainly have enjoyed being here. And don't forget to comment, share the video, and I'll see you guys next week.